In Monster Slaughter, you'll play as a family of monsters trying to find and eat victims stuck in a cabin. It's not going to be that straightforward though, because victims are going to fight back and other monster families can actually defend them or interfere with your meal. The goal in this game is to score the most points by attacking as many victims as possible. Scoring higher points for victims that you've targeted and predicted will die first. Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another tutorial here on the Dice Tower. My name is Tim Chuon and I make board game cinematics. Let's go ahead and start off first with the setup of Monster Slaughter. So first off, the bottom cover of the box is going to be your 3D cabin. You're going to take this out and then put in the interior walls by matching them from number to number. There should actually be one more wall here that's not shown because that piece is missing from my box. Now from there, you'll take the doors and you want to pry them open a little bit to fit them into these pieces across the box. Then unfold the ground tiles, connect them, and put the cabin on top right in the center of the playing area. Now today we are setting up for a 2-player first time playthrough, so we'll go ahead and use the base characters as an example. Next, put the character cards on the wound track and put the square tokens called wound track victim markers for each guest above the wound track. That way the colored cubes are showing in the top right corner. And then you can put the corresponding cube with the matching character's health. So for example, Tom here has a yellow cube and starts with 3 health, so I'll put the yellow cube on the 3 slot. After that, put the corresponding minis on top of the wound track and give every player 1 target token, along with 5 victim markers. Now this is called a nocturnal event card. For your very first time playing, take 7 random ones, shuffle them together, and do not put the knock knock card in those 7 cards. Then put the full moon marker on top of that deck, and you can also put the flesh and brain tokens nearby. Quick note here, these are my own game trace containers, they do not come with the game. Now it's time to choose your monster family that you're going to be playing with. Once you pick a family, grab their miniatures and their matching character cards. Today we'll be playing with the ghosts and the clowns. Now we're going to make the game deck with the following cards. You'll take 5 object cards that provide bonuses against our chosen monster families. In the case of the ghosts, I'll take these 5 cards. And you can tell that they are object cards because it will show the symbol of the monster on the bottom right corner. Then take 3 trap cards, which will have this trap symbol on the bottom right corner, and 7 bonus action cards which look just like this. After that, shuffle everything together. Okay, we are almost done with the setup. Now you want to take those cards and put them into rooms according to the player count. So the living room here, for instance, would get 8 cards. Then shuffle around your victim markers and place 1 target on top of any token. This victim is going to be your favorite meal, meaning it's the victim that you want to target first in order to score the most bonus points. Lastly, figure out who's the first player, but since we're playing with the ghost family, ghosts will actually always go last, so in this case, clowns will go first, and that, my friends, is the setup. Now on your turn, you first place one of your monsters in one of these 4 outdoor zones, and then you start your actions. You have 6 actions in total, so let's go ahead and go over them one by one. First is move. You can move your monster to any adjacent location, but you can only move between zones if doors have been smashed through and there is no barricade. And that leads us to action number 2, smash. If a door is blocking your way, roll the number of dice listed on the monster card you're activating. You'll notice here that the fathers have the most dice, mothers have 3 dice available, and children have 2 dice available. If you want to smash the door open, you roll the number of available dice, and if you roll 1 success, which is the claw mark symbol, then the door is open and you keep the door because doors are worth 1 point later on. Doors are going to stay open unless barricades are put there, and barricades need 2 successes in order to open, but they are not worth any points at the end of the game. Last thing about doors, if you are successful in smashing a door open, immediately shuffle the draw pile for that particular room. So far we have move and we have smash. Action number 3 is peek. If you are inside the room that you want to peek in or in an adjacent zone connecting that room, then you can draw the top card for that room, look at it, and place it back on top of that pile. But now you might be asking, well, why do we want to peek in a room? Well, that's because you don't want to waste actions moving into different rooms, and also, you don't want to waste a search, which is action number 4. Again, if you are inside the room that you want to search, you roll the action dice, and each success lets you draw 1 card from that room's draw pile in order to place it in your hand. If you draw a victim, then that victim is revealed and their miniature also gets placed in that room. If you draw a trap, follow through with what the trap says. And if you draw an object card, you just keep it in your hand without revealing it. For the search action, you draw cards 1 by 1 and your maximum hand limit is 7 cards. Once you reach that hand limit, your search is completely over. Now let's say your victim has been revealed in the room that you're searching in. This leads to the last 2 regular actions. You can actually scare the victim if you're in the same or in an adjacent zone, regardless if there's a door. In order to scare them, you roll the action dice and then that victim can be moved up to the number of successes that you rolled. Victims do have to end their moves in any zone other than the one containing the monster that scared them. Now thematically, those victims can open doors and then close them after they've entered the room. So basically that means they can enter rooms with a door, but they cannot go through barricades. They also cannot leave the cabin. If there happen to be 2 victims in a zone, then you only choose one to scare. And this is important. If a victim is alone in an open zone without any monsters, they automatically hide. That means that you put their character card face down on that room's draw pile, and if there are any other cards in that pile, shuffle that deck. The miniature also goes back to the wound track, and they do not recover while hiding. The whole point of scaring a victim is to save those victims for yourself instead of letting other players get to them first. And the final action of the game, the whole point of this game, is to actually attack your victim. If your victim is visible and your monster is in the same zone, now you can attack them. Now before you do that though, 2 things can actually happen. So first, other players can fight back and they can actually intervene. So before you roll your action dice, you have to ask if anyone else wants to defend the victim. Anyone who wants to fight back gives the victim one of their object cards as if they were playing for that victim. The object that was used to defend a victim has to have been an object that was found during earlier searches, and objects are only used once and then they are discarded right after. Objects also give 1 to 3 reaction dice that are combined with the victim's special ability, and most objects actually give an extra die against certain type of monsters. Players are also free to consult with each other before deciding to fight back. And if multiple people want to defend the victim, they then have to show each other the cards that they're using without showing the active player. If players can agree, then no card is used and the victim is not defended. If no one wants to help the victim fight back, then the victim can only use their own abilities. In this case, the father clown wants to attack the victim, and the ghosts respond by giving the victim 1 die, and they give 1 more since this has 1 bonus die against clowns. The monster only inflicts damage if you roll more successes than the victim. And then the victim would take damage according to what's remaining. Now in this case, Brittany takes 0 damage since her ability cancels out a monster's die. And since she rolled 2 successes, it also cancels out the father clown's 2 successes as well. Now here's a complete example of how a turn works. As a ghost father, I am here in the living room and I use search for my first action. I rolled 4 dice and got 2 successes, which means I get to draw 2 cards. The first card is an object card which I keep in my hand. But then the second card is a victim. I found Cam hiding in the living room, meaning his mini gets populated in the living room. And as the ghost father, I get to use 1 more action and I'll go ahead and attack. The clowns decide not to defend Cam, but his ability is that he gets to roll 1 die regardless. I roll action dice and the clowns roll reaction dice. If there are more monster successes than victim successes, then Cam would take damage according to the number of remaining monster successes by moving down the wound track, and in turn, I gain flesh tokens equal to the number of wounds inflicted on the victim. If the victim and the monster were both fighting in the WC and Cam had more successes than the monster, then the monster gets ejected to the living room. From all other rooms, you get ejected from the cabin. If the door is closed, the monster, including ghosts, smashes through the door as if they were going through it, but doesn't get to keep the door, it's just kept to the side. If the victim is then in a room without any monsters, then they would immediately hide. If rolls come out to a tie, then nothing happens. And regardless of how the attack turned out, the monster can finish its remaining turns. And lastly, when a victim loses their last health point, they die and a postmortem is performed. Now this is how postmortem works. If you dealt a fatal blow while the victim had 2 health left, then that means you gained 2 wound tokens. When you deal a fatal blow, you also get a bone token. If the victim was a party guest, then each player reveals their victim marker for the dead guest, and if the party guest died in the order that they predicted, each player who had the right death order gets 1 brain token. Lastly, if the party guest was the favorite meal of the monster that dealt the fatal blow, then that player also gets 1 target token. Now in summary, you're going to activate your father, mother, or child monster on your turn, and then look at the number of actions that they have available. Then you can start outside the cabin, and then you can move to an adjacent zone with open doors, smash a door with 1 success die, or barricade with 2 success dice, peek into a room by drawing the top card of that room's deck, search for victims inside your room by rolling dice and drawing cards equal to the number of successes, and if a victim pops up for you or for other players, you can scare them away or attack the victim. You also get 1 free move that doesn't count towards your actions and as many bonus actions as you'd like to play from your hand. All of these possible actions you can perform in any order on your turn. Once a player finishes up their turn and uses up all their available actions, flipping over their character card, it moves on to the next player clockwise. And when everyone finishes, the full moon marker on the game clock moves to the next space and reveals a nocturnal event card. For those, you simply follow what's listed on the card. This event is going to get replaced by the following event when the next one gets revealed. You'll notice that eventually you're going to run out of monsters to use. By then the game is going to hit the red events at 2 a.m., 5 a.m., and 8 a.m. During these events, you simply flip your monsters face up again and continue your turn. For the final round at 8 a.m., if victims are still alive, players will take one last turn. So you continue the game until endgame gets triggered, which happens one out of two ways. Either only monsters are alive, or it's 8 a.m. and all players have completed their monsters' actions. Then you just count up all the victory points that you got from wounds, fatal blows, death orders, favorite meals, and doors. Ties go to the players with most brain tokens since they had the best death order. And that is how you play the base game of Monster Slaughter. Thank you all so much for joining us here at the Dice Tower, and we'll see you in the next video.